would both stand shoulder to shoulder and pound the table for Derek Carr.
Well, Shannon, are you buying their belief in Derek Carr here?
No, I think they like him. I don't think they love him. And, you know, he said, well, he had his best year under John Gruden. Well, hell, John Gruden hadn't had any good years. Skip, how about this? 4-12, 79, 8-8. So what's good under that? They gave you $100 million to win about 6 games a season? Well, they needed some return on their investment. So, Skip, look, I've just never got the sense that Derek Carr is really the type of quarterback that John Gruden wants. Now, Deshaun Watson is, because it's the West Coast system. And I've said this before. Of all the teams I would like to see Deshaun Watson in, the San Francisco 49ers, because of his skill set and because of Kyle Shanahan. But John Gruden also runs the West Coast system, which is ideal, which is catered, which is on a silver platter for Deshaun Watson and his skill set and what he can do. So, do I like Derek Carr? Oh, yeah, I like Derek Carr. You got a chance to get Deshaun Watson. We don't like Derek Carr that much. And so, Skip, I think that's what's going on. I think Mike Mayock is saying all the right things publicly, but I believe behind the scenes, he and John Gruden are trying to finagle away or trying to finesse away. Hey, Houston, what would it really take for us to get Deshaun Watson? Because we got it. We'll give it to you. Because at the end of the day, Skip, if Mark Davis does not win a Super Bowl, he just blew $100 million.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter all the draft picks. It's not like the Raiders are getting great draft picks anyway. We talk about this Cleveland Farrell. Has Cleveland Farrell lived up to being the number 3 pick? Abrams, has he lived up to being the top flight safety taken in the first round? No. So with their draft history, hell, trade those picks if you get an opportunity to get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Because he's tried and true. But to answer your question, Skip, to make a long story short, they like Derek Carr. They don't love Derek Carr.
Okay, I'm having a hard time with your premise of they. I don't think it's a they. I think it's a Mayock and a Gruden.
John Gruden. How about John Gruden?
Okay, thank you.
What he's saying, they're going to stand shoulder to shoulder and pound the table. No. So John Gruden doesn't love him.
Okay, I do buy what we just watched Mike Mayock say. I think he's sold on Derek Carr. I think he personally likes Derek Carr. I think he likes being around him. And Shannon, if you look at the numbers Derek Carr put up last year, he had and I don't use this word lightly, he had a great season given the fact he was playing for John Gruden, who can be as tough on quarterbacks as any coach who ever put a hat on. So the point is, if you look at Derek Carr's season last year, his QBR was 11th in the league. Pro Football Focus ranked him the 9th best quarterback in the league. 27 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions. 67% completion percentage, pretty good. He had a career best 4,103 yards passing. Okay, all that works, except one thing doesn't work. 8 and 8 does not work. John Gruden is under the gun. Obviously, Mike Mayock's under the same gun there. And yet, every time I listen to John talk about Derek Carr, it never rings true to me. He never seems sold on Derek Carr because publicly, there's always some sarcasm, some dismissiveness in his comments, going all the way back to 2 years ago during Hard Knocks. It just didn't ring true that he was heart and soul sold on Derek Carr. So I'm completely with you. And yet Gruden is so hard on quarterbacks, and I've made this point to you before, he won with 2 quarterbacks who were pretty much, at that point, his same age. Remember, if we go back to Rich Gannon in Oakland, obviously, and then Brad Johnson, they won the Super Bowl in Tampa. They're older quarterbacks. I know for a fact, especially with Rich Gannon, he would talk back to John. He would put John back in his place. He wouldn't take any you-know-what from John Gruden. Well, then all of a sudden, there's no more Brad Johnson, obviously, Rich Gannon. And then it's just a series of younger quarterbacks in Tampa, and they never worked out because John would just ruin them. He's just very difficult to play for. And I admire greatly what Derek Carr has been able to accomplish under John Gruden. But again, where does the buck stop? Well, it stops with the guy who makes, what is it, $10 million a year, right?
10 mil.
Right. So,
And that's not a good return on the investment.
No.
You haven't even made the playoffs.
No.
Skip, can you make the playoffs one time?
no, they have not made the playoffs. So who's the final decision maker? Who has last word, final say? Well, I'm pretty sure
John
it's
Gruden.
Gruden. So Mike Mayock
Yeah.
can say all he wants. He can pound the table all he wants, but in the end, the pound that matters is from John Gruden. So I think he's still in search of that magical quarterback and that Super Bowl. And I still believe
You're
in
right,
John,
yeah.
and I like
And he
him, and I know him, and I've told you, I've defended him on this show, but I just think there's somebody else out there for John, and maybe it's Deshaun, but I don't have any idea how they could pull off that deal.
But wasn't Russell one of his lists, the 14
Yeah,
on his list?
he
wasn't
was.
that Vegas?
Yeah, that would
So
work.
I think John Gruden would much rather have Russell
I
Wilson,
agree.
Deshaun Watson, as opposed to Derek Carr. And I agree with you. The buck has to stop. Skip, how the hell can the buck stop with someone else? The man that gets hired by the man can't have more power than the man that hired him.
Right.
John Gruden hired Mike Mayock. So how the hell you going to say Mike Mayock
That's
has final say over the man that hired him?
Touche. You got me.
Who
Okay.
y'all fooling?
So we just talked about Sam Darnold getting a fresh start somewhere else. I would like to see Derek Carr. He's almost 30 years of age. I would like to see him get one more go around somewhere else with a pretty good team, because I think he could be very good for a pretty good team.
Right. I agree. But I think you would agree with me on this. John Gruden has underachieved based on his salary,
Yeah.
based on what he promised this. And he has not delivered the goods, Skip. He has not delivered what he told us we should expect.
Okay? I agree. Not yet. He hasn't. I still believe in him.